I remember telling my mum that we lose around 30,000 skin cells in a minute. They drop with a flick of a hand and no one notices. Fragments of our DNA sprawled across the nation and no one notices. I remember telling my mum about the average of 10,000 racial slurs used on a single social media platform per day. And I couldn't begin to comprehend the amount of racial slurs that are thrown outside of a keyboard barrier. Instead of being burrowed under the crevices of keys, they are spat into the faces of people whose skin become an invitation for hate. Like when I'm at some coffee chain with my mum, and they're asking her how to spell her name, and the people lined up behind are frowning and murmuring and whispering under their breaths, "Right, foreigner," because we're holding the line up. She practices her ABCs out loud and counts change with her fingers, and no one seems to notice that before coming to this country over 20 years ago, she did not know this language. She only learnt from supermarket tills and in words as they dropped from customers' mouths like skin cells, she'd collect them up. Even if they would go by their days not knowing, some days she would go back home and pray in English. To practice her fricatives and erase her trills, mold her mother tongue into regional dialect, my mother, and no one would notice. That is, until she found Facebook and decided to non-stop post the English recitals for public approval. Still, far from stealing white-collar jobs, far from polluting the standard language, far from taking up too much space, my mother would consider mopping my school floors the chance that I'd be able to buy new school shoes and correctly get to write my name out on a whiteboard and smile, dropping grades like skin cells trying to make her proud. Meanwhile, Supervisor Susan is delegating jobs out at the checkouts. It became apparent taking bins out became a mum's job title rather than speaking to people. Communicating with customers became beneath her. My mother would erase her mother tongue in the pursuit of not being called illiterate, so that she could protect her children when we were called chink at the playgrounds and the schools would blame us for provoking it. I learned from my mum like those kids did from their parents. I learned that history is still ingrained into society, regenerated every 27 days like skin. And if I could peel it away and become a mannequin of muscle and fat, you would learn that I am made of 206 bones, the same as everyone. I remember telling my mum that we lose around 30,000 skin cells in a minute. That's 90,000 gone in the duration of this, and no one notices. They drop with a flick of a hand, a racial slur mumbled under someone's breath, a throw of a punch, a push to the ground. Hate makes us sit down, lie down, do as we're told, whilst white papers are ripped up and thrown into a river of blood that runs thicker than water. And no one seems to notice.